Hi everyone, my name is Annette Yang, Director of Content for Marketing Society. Today I'm introducing the first episode of Open Book, a brand new podcast delivering firsthand experiences, lessons learned, and point of views from other NYU students. Today I'm incredibly excited to introduce you to Karen Lee, my first guest on Open Book. She's one of my closest friends at NYU and she has just the most amazing, flamboyant personality that I'm so excited to share with you all. So, Karen, can you introduce yourself?
Of course. Thank you for having me. So excited to start up this amazing podcast. Very excited to see what my other peers have to share as well. My name is Karen Lee. I am a junior studying media culture communications at New York University, the same major as Annette. I also have a minor in social entrepreneurship, which I will discuss a little bit later as well during the podcast.
For sure. So, Karen, you wear many labels, but one of them in particular is very unique, and that is that you are a female entrepreneur. So, can you tell me a little bit more about your journey as a female entrepreneur and your company, Global Citizen Media Production?
Yes. Thank you for getting it right. I feel like a lot of people call it Global Citizen. We have a lot of different names, and it's also we perform a lot on Chinese platforms, so that's why sometimes the translation gets a little off. But yeah, so I started this production group. I would say 2 years ago during pandemic. I was just lost because I was graduating from high school and didn't know what I wanted to pursue. So I was talking to my friends around the world and I was like, what do I want to do? And just through a conversation with them and talking about our experiences being in lockdown during the pandemic and what's going on in the world. There was Beirut explosion happening for my friends in Lebanon. And I was like, why don't we make this into an online podcast and just showcase our experiences together, document our conversations and then edit them and post them online for other people to share, especially for, my folks in China. I feel like it's important for them to kind of see what the outer world can expose to them as well. So it's very critical. And when I came to NYU, I realized, wow, I can also do in-person events, in-person opportunities. So I started reaching out to some people in New York City and I was like, do you want to partner with me? For example, I reached out to this nightlife event group that they were hosting and they're all NYU entrepreneurs. So we partnered together to work on an episode on New York City nightlife. I went to some really famous artists in Brooklyn and I visited their gallery and we recorded, what their experiences are like working during a pandemic or just, in New York as a whole. So we got a lot of great content and we had this commercialization phase, I would say, last year in March when we had a lot of street interview content that blew up on the platform that we post on Chinese platform called Bilibili. It was really successful. I guess we got really fortunate that it was very high engagement. And then a company reached out to us and was like, they wanted to start partnering with us. So we created fun content for them and we started getting investors and sponsorships. So this is kind of where the entrepreneurship kind of comes in. Before it was just like a content house. We just create content. We didn't really think about commercialization. And later on it became kind of like a business venture as we got investors and new partnerships. Yeah, and so far we got partnered with Coca-Cola, Nvidia, really big names that we were very fortunate to have, as well as some smaller local small businesses as well.
Wow, that's so amazing. You just said so many cool things about your company and all of what you've accomplished in just the last 2 years. Some statistics that I've gathered from your portfolio are that Global Citizen Media Production reached well over 20 million views, 80% audience retention, and 99,000 total user engagement. So these are numbers that are definitely not easy to reach. So starting from the beginning up until now, how have you led the strategic process of making the right decisions as coming from like a managerial position, a leadership position? Can you kind of take me through that process?
Yeah, I can definitely walk you through. I think just my biggest takeaway is to listen to audience needs and also what your team members want. Before I was really stuck in my head that oh my God, I'll just follow whatever my heart tells me and I neglect what other people's feedback are. So I just basically lead every conversation. I lead every team meeting. There really wasn't as much involvement that my team members have. And then later on, I went into this big roadblock during one of our partnerships. I just couldn't get it done. I realized that my mindset was stuck on, what I actually thought would be successful and I didn't ask my team members input. So that really was like a turning point for me to actually bring my team members' input into our day-to-day operations and make sure that I'm fulfilling all of their needs and their purposes by being part of this organization.
Yeah, that's definitely a very unique experience to have such a kind of big leadership position from, I mean, before you even started college, I guess.
Yeah.
And you talked briefly about how your company has grown exponentially since it began. So, on the topic of growth, how has the goals that your company had from the start evolved up until right now?
I would say we started, like I was saying, it's just a content house. We were just making content that we care about as Gen Z, or just, being a global citizen. Later on, when we realized there's commercialization opportunities, we definitely thought about like how do we align our business objectives with our content. But recently, I have to admit that we are losing a little of our original intention. We are actually strategically partnering with a big kind of like a creator hub in China. They basically tell us a lot of things that we should work on, give us a lot of, I guess, ideas that we should follow. But because they're helping us commercializing, we do have to follow a lot of their leads. So that actually led to a lot of disagreements within the team. Some people expressed that, I don't feel like I'm being as passionate as I was before because I'm just basically working. Like, I'm not putting any of my ideas into our projects. So right now, I am making a decision to pass on what I've been working on to more like freshmen and sophomore people, kind of like passing the baton to people who have more time to create content. And we're kind of not completely saying bye to the commercialization aspect, but trying to put that aside and focus on our content first to make sure that we're ready to find the balance, because I feel like we're losing the balance in between.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially as a company grows, those decisions just get more difficult, I would assume. But what do you think is another misconception that people might have about starting your own company that you've experienced was a little bit different from your own entrepreneurship?
I would say a misconception is you have to know what you're working on before you step into the market. Before, I didn't know anything about content creation. Like, I've never worked on like an in-person film project before. It was just like, okay, like let's start. Let me learn from others. So I reached out to like NYU Tisch students who I also became really great friends with between us as well, like our mutual friend. Yeah, a lot of great people. I just asked for help and I just learned on the spot. So that was definitely something I didn't know I could do. Because before I was just like, okay, like it's a fun project. Let me see where this can take me. I didn't really start with the goal like, I want to start a company.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you mentioned that in the beginning you didn't really know exactly what content creation was,
Right.
but now you're a leader in content creation. So how did you even develop those skills throughout the last 2 years?
Right. I think a lot of that just comes from learning and being very intuitive and finding the resources that can help you. Like even just conversation with friends during dinner, you never know what they know that you don't know. So I'm constantly kind of just, being humble and being curious about like what other people can share with me, and also just taking online classes, reaching out to mentor. Like we're fortunate that we have great mentorship for Global Citizen Media Production Group that all of our team members can go to for help. So having that resource was definitely very important in kind of supporting our growth, both as a company and for me as an individual.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you've been taking over the digital content world by storm, but you're also a fully enrolled student in school. You have another internship in client strategy at an ad agency, and you're also leading digital content for a nonprofit. And you're a leader of your own company. Is that right?
Yeah.
So how do you balance all this along with your personal life?
Right. I feel like that was really a constant struggle, just even during our conversations. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like, I feel like I might burn out. Like, this is not going the right way. But I think through all these experiences, what I really learned was knowing what to prioritize and knowing that sometimes I need to tell myself to stop. Because I sometimes call myself a workaholic. Now I don't think it's a great word to call myself a workaholic, because I really need to have like personal, like literally alone time for me to reflect on my day, on all the endeavors I'm pursuing right now, and also just making sure that I'm spending enough time with my loved ones, my family, my relationship, my friends. Before I think I was kind of like stuck in this mindset that I just need to focus on work.
So where do you get the passion for the projects that you do? And I guess what's next? Like, what other career goals that you have, short term, long term? I want to know.
Right. I think first thing is definitely creating impact. I realized from doing content creation that it feels really empowering to make content that people respond and like, wow, that was really empowering. That was something I've never seen before. Like, we worked on this episode on just bullying in general, and that got a lot of, I'm not recollecting numbers, it's kind of growing every day, but we got a lot of people responding like, oh, like I've had the same experience as the girl who shared in the episode, but there really wasn't an outlet for me to express. Like, thank you for giving the platform for me to talk with other people. Like, we have, I think, 3K or 4K comments in our video section where people were just exchanging, like, I'm here for you, I've gone through the same thing. And we had like so many people reach out to us in our like kind of DMs, like direct messages, and was like, thank you for making this. Can I show this to more people? Can I even download your video to show at my class? Because my teachers in China don't talk about bullying at all,
Yeah.
Making an impact is something I've never realized could, feel my passion so much as anything else. So that's definitely something I want to focus on in any kind of career field I will step into in the future.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I didn't know that you made a video. I want to see it, but definitely that's super, super cool. And I know you said creating this impact is so important. So going forward, maybe you move on from this company to other pursuits. How do you think you want to continue to, I guess, like cultivate this passion of making an impact?
Right. So first, my goal, or at least me and my other executives' goals, are not finishing this project and just like leave it there. We want to continue kind of like our legacy and make sure that more people are benefiting from it, because I learned so much through this organization. And right now, like, I'm stepping down, not just I'm leaving this behind, but more like I want to kind of help more people, sort of like act like a mentor to guide them through this whole experience, and make sure that they're doing the same thing or even better things than what we did through these past 2 years.
Kind of going back a little bit, we talked about your pursuit and passion for entrepreneurship. So I want to know a little bit more about your personal journey with entrepreneurship itself. So entrepreneurship alongside positions like CEOs, just managers, executives, they're mostly male dominated and white dominated. So I'm curious how your experience kind of translated those, I guess, struggles with like being a minority in your own journey.
Right. I think for me, I was fortunate that my identity of being a female didn't really get, being like discriminated against, but definitely being an Asian person or even just Chinese speaking person, like a lot of team members speak Chinese. So when we go to some shooting locations where they don't understand what we're talking about, like for example, they're just discussing like, where do we put this light, but no one understands. They become very impatient. They're like, oh my god, like I don't understand what you're talking about, like can you hurry the F up even. Like we just got a lot of like comments like that. But because our target is in China, like I want to make sure that we have a majority of Chinese speaking, even just American-born Chinese part of our team, so that we can communicate with a lot of our audiences and our collaboration partners. Yeah, so that was definitely a struggle. Is like the language barrier and people not being understanding enough of that we talk different language, and that maybe you should just have us talk it through. So that was definitely a struggle. But I think overall, like I was fortunate not to. Maybe it's just also I'm a student. I'm naive that I don't really focus on microaggressions. That I didn't get affected a lot by that. But definitely being young, I think being a young entrepreneur was something that a lot of our business partners are not very happy with, because we don't work full time. We can't also answer them.
So, despite all of the difficulties, what calls you to entrepreneurship?
I would say having this experience that not a lot of college kids would have, I also work at internships as well, different companies. And just through that, I feel like I was not able to take as many, initiatives as I could just being a global citizen. I can basically do anything I want at Global Citizen, and my team members could do the same thing. That's kind of like the mentality I'm kind of encouraging through our organization, is that whatever idea you have, share it with us, and then we're going to make it happen. You can't really do this at a company. You tell your boss, hey, like, this is my idea, let's do it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let you to do so. So I think just having the opportunity to be a self-starter is such an honor and privilege throughout this journey, and I definitely want to continue this in my future career goals. I forgot to answer that question, but yeah, definitely I want to find a company that really supports me to grow as an individual, and making sure that I'm not feeling stagnated. I'm not feeling like I'm doing redundant work every day. I want to make sure that I'm being supported with my skills, and then I can also contribute and making an impact through everything I do.
Yeah. It's great that you have like a very concrete understanding of what you want and what you're looking for, so that you actually end up working towards it or getting it. To wrap up, do you have any final advice for anyone out there who might be thinking about entrepreneurship, doesn't really know what to do, what it even is?
Right.
Yeah.
Like what I was saying, I think be brave, but another thing is just don't hesitate to reach out for help. That's super important. A lot of people are like, oh my god, like what if they don't know me, or what if like I haven't contacted this person in like 5 years. It can even be your high school teacher who might give you like such great insights. Like I actually reached out to my middle school teacher because he has great connections in the mental health world, and then we were able to connect with a very famous therapist and make an episode on that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was just like, I've never talked to this guy in 10 years, but let me just give it a try, and it worked, So definitely making sure that you are reaching out for help, for connections, and being humble. I think being humble is important. Staying hungry, staying foolish kind of mindset is you're always learning through every interaction, everything you're doing every day. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, thank you so much for joining me on my first episode of Open Book. It was amazing having you, and I definitely learned a lot, and I hope our audience learned a lot as well.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.